tonight, MAGA divided. Donald Trump's support for Israel's actions against Iran is splitting his own base, pitting Israel hawks against those who fear the United States is being pulled into an even bigger regional fight. But remember, when the president campaigned on this message.
I will stop the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III. I'm going to keep us out of World War III. We're not going to have World War III, but I will prevent World War III.
Former Fox host Tucker Carlson sent Trump a stern warning this morning in his newsletter. Quote, the United States should not at any level participate in a war with Iran. No funding, no American troops, no troops on the ground. Drop Israel. Let them fight their own wars. What happens next will define Donald Trump's presidency. Ashley Allison and Pete Seat are back at the table. Ravi is also back with us as well. So, Pete, this is an inevitable divide playing out in MAGA world where Trump, you know, he told them he would end all the wars, and now he has not ended all the wars.
Well, it's inevitable because there is an element of the MAGA base that is divorced from reality, and that is the reality of leadership. They've never read an intelligence briefing. They've never sat in the Situation Room. Donald Trump has had the benefit of doing that. The most consequential decision they've made is choosing Crest or Colgate. And so they don't understand the importance of these decisions, nor do they embrace the burden of American leadership and being the world's lone superpower and having the largest economy. And it's just, they're clueless.
Argue that also describes what Donald Trump campaigned on. I mean, he campaigned on getting out of, Iraq or getting out of Afghanistan in his first term. Then Ukraine hasn't happened. Then stopping the Gaza war hasn't happened. He has been the one who has fed, if it's a delusion, he's fed the delusion.
I think he's very good at sort of spotting the mood, and I'm a Crest man, by the way, but I think, in as much as there's a constituency on the left and the right that really does want to end all of these wars around the world, Trump wants to cater to that. He is also, I think, looking at this moment and saying, well, Israel's taking out Iran's nukes. This is actually quite popular in the region. It's popular in the United States. It's a win as well for a wing of his party. So why not milk some of that? I think he's just looking at each faction and how they're reacting and seeing what he can get out of it.
And I think this is what we've been missing for so long as Republicans is leadership. Like, just Donald Trump should tell us.
Is
I know,
exerting
it's
leadership?
I know, it's surprising.
I just wanted, for the record, make sure
he just needs to tell us what he thinks.
Yeah.
He keeps playing this both sides things or staying quiet, but it's interesting because, where is he in the Russian-Ukraine conflict? He can't say Russia invaded Ukraine, and so nobody even knows where he really stands on that. I remember a saying that I have memorized over and over, the short part of it. Ronald Reagan gave at the Goldwater Convention. He said, we can have peace and we can have it tomorrow. Surrender. And there is a surrender caucus in the MAGA base that basically thinks peace at any cost, including at the reputation of the United States, is worth it. And I don't.
I think one thing, though, is that Donald Trump makes a lot of promises that he can't keep, and because they're empty promises. So you say, I'm going to end the war in day one of my administration. Many of us said that's not going to happen, especially if you're not going to tell the truth about what happened for the war to start. And there are people, to your point, in the Republican Party and MAGA who believe him everything he says, even if he says the sky is green. They believe everything he says, and they do not question it. I think what you're seeing now, though, with Tucker Carlson, even Steve Bannon, he was saying, Israel has to go at it alone.
Let me play that sound from Steve Bannon earlier today on the War Room.
Israel puts Israel first, as they should. I have no problem with that. But America's got to put America first. And one thing I don't like seeing is all this cheerleading going on right now, because when you're in the Middle East and dealing with ancient civilizations that are over there, unexpected things happen. We know that from 20 years of war in Afghanistan, in Iraq.
They're isolationists, though, and so it is for them. It's only about America. I'm not gonna be like Adam and give Donald Trump the leadership credibility stamp of approval tonight. Not that I think that's what you were doing, but
I give him the lack of it.
Okay, right. But I think Donald Trump is not stupid, and he knows that what happened last night, which is why they put the statement out they did last night, saying we did not support this move, and now is backtracking. Even that saying last night one thing and then today flipping the script. It's whatever he thinks at the end of the day will suit him better. And I'm not even sure it's what will suit America better.
Pete, what do you make of that last point that Bannon made, which is that our experience in this region has been, to put it mildly, terrible? We have gotten into essentially quagmires by intervening. And there is a fear, especially among some of the younger folks who lived through that, that this could be a very similar situation. And also, as we've been discussing earlier in the show, we don't know how this ends. It looks like bombs falling everywhere in Iran right now, but what's the end game?
And those are legitimate fears, to the points you made and the points that Steve Bannon made. But we do have interests in the Middle East. That has not changed. But what I think is so interesting about this is these are the same people who keep saying, art of the deal, art of the deal, don't take anything off the table. And here they are begging the president of the United States to take things off the table.
I mean, maybe because there's been no deals.
Yeah, there's been no deal.
I don't know. I'm sorry to say, but there's been no deals.
And
There's
honestly,
no
again,
Ukraine deal, no Gaza deal.
It's hard to see MAGA coalesce around anything when the president doesn't articulate his foreign policy goals. And I think it's just so important because you can't, when you're campaigning, you can do whatever you want, right? You can say whatever you want. When you're president, you're going to be faced with things like, hey, Israel's bombing Iran. And I don't see how this stops now with Iran with the nuclear program intact. And honestly, the United States is going to have to make a statement either way on what's happening, and more than just silently, I think, intercepting some missiles.
CNN's chief international correspondent, Clarissa Ward, joins us now from Eilat, Israel. Clarissa, you just arrived there. Tell us what the scene is like tonight on the ground.
Well, Abby, you can probably see behind me the sun is just starting to come up here. It's been quiet for the last couple of hours. Prior to that, we were seeing quite a lot of activity in the skies. We heard fighter jets as we were driving across the border with Egypt because Israel's airspace is completely closed. We could see intercepts taking place. And when you talk to Israelis, and even just being here a few hours on the ground, you can see really a very clear difference, Abby, from other trips we have done here, from last year's tit for tat back and forth between Israel and Iran. And when you look at those startling images of the enormous damage that was done by that Iranian ballistic missile on the outskirts of Tel Aviv, as you mentioned, one woman killed, and you saw this night sky lighting up over Tel Aviv, some of them being intercepted, those missiles, but some of them getting through. And the power of those missiles, the ferocity of the kind of roar as they made impact. When you talk to people here, there's a real sense that this is a significant escalation, that this is leading to a new chapter. And that's something that is being echoed across the region. This is a region tonight, or I should say this morning, Abby, really on a knife edge. We've heard Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, basically vowing very hard punishment for those attacks that took place on civilian areas. Of course, Israeli missiles have also been falling on civilian areas inside Iran. And now, of course, as well, you have that threat that you mentioned from the Iranians that anyone who supports Israel in its defense, and this is a not-so-veiled threat towards the U.S. as well, is liable to be attacked. Their regional bases liable to be attacked. And that, of course, is part of the reason that we saw U.S. personnel pulled out of several embassies across the region. So definitely a sense that things are not getting quieter, that they are escalating, the dawn just breaking here, and we will see what this day brings, Abby.
And Clarissa, what is your sense of the targeting here of some of these ballistic missiles that are coming in from Iran? You know, when we saw those attacks a few months ago, this barrage of missiles coming in, very few of them actually made it into Israel, in part due to the Iron Dome. I wonder if the sense is that Iran is deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure, or is their aim just not what it should be if they're trying to get at some of the military infrastructure pieces that they might be after?
I mean, I think there's no question, Abby, that when we were here last summer, it was pretty clear what the targets were of these various missile attacks that were coming from Iran. The impression that we have here is that the gloves have effectively come off now, right? Because the sites that you're seeing in Tel Aviv and around Tel Aviv this evening in central Israel, like, this is not like anything that people here have seen before, and certainly that we have seen before. And that's why you're seeing such a strong response from the defense minister, accusing Iran of deliberately targeting civilians. Of course, we don't exactly know what the intended target was, but make no mistake, this is a new chapter. It's a dangerous chapter. It's a dramatic escalation. That's why you are seeing leaders across the world, particularly in the region, but also in Europe, desperately calling on all parties to kind of pull back from the brink before things get even worse than they already are. But at the moment, Abby, no clear exit ramp in sight. And despite President Trump's urges for Iran to join those talks in Oman over the weekend, it's really looking rather unlikely that they would do that, because it would be seen essentially as a capitulation of sorts, Abby.